Welcome to part 2, lesson 2, intermediate stropping. Basically, we have two purposes for this. One is to deburr. Two is to polish. When we get to advanced lessons later in part 3, we'll discuss more advanced polishing. First thing is deburr. As I mentioned before, that knife, when you get down to your 1200 or 1000 stone, you can't feel it anymore barely, but there is still a little bit of burr there. It's very, very thin. Any other stones will keep making a new burr. Stropping will actually get rid of that burr. Second thing it does is polishes. That whole surface, it has that mother of pearl marble look to it, kind of a prismatic look. We're going to get rid of that by stropping because it'll smooth out those imperfections, clean that edge up, make it look a lot more nice, so it polishes it. Pretty simple stuff. A lot of different techniques. First thing, of course, you have to remove the knife from the jig. Took it out of there. You can see the knife still has oil on it because it was in the jig, and you can still see some metal fragments there. So when I take the knife out, of course, always wipe off the oil from it. Wipe off any metal flakes on it. You want a dry blade when you're doing stropping, not an oil blade. Before, never run a dry stone. We'll never run a wet strop either. So blade's nice and dry, has that flat hazy look. Wipe it off one more time on a clean white towel. Got a nice clean blade. Again, this will shave all the hair right off your arm, as you can see, easily. We're gonna make it even better than that. First thing we're gonna do is do the deburr, like I said. Some people do this really fast. Once you get good at it, I'd highly recommend go very, very slowly, because we're at the point now you'll be into bone before you can pull back if you slip. We don't want you to slip. So my particular big strop here has a hook on the end, as you can see, so I can hook that anywhere I want. Flip front. I got 4 different sharpening, stropping surfaces, so I'm just going to clip it on my table here. The weight's pretty particular. I usually pull about 2 or 3 pounds. You want a nice tight strop here, not so loose it bows, because if you get a bow in there like this, then you're just rounding off your sharp edge. You're not making it flat. If you pull too tight, you're risking pulling something loose, skipping the knife off the edge and having a problem. So first thing we do is deburr. You don't have to have a canvas to deburr. You can use the back side of the leather like this. You're deburring, then flip it and go to the smooth side. If you only have an old leather belt out of your closet, that's perfect also. You can do everything in one step. You can deburr, keep going, it'll polish, it'll sharpen everything up. So right now you can't see it on the video how sharp here probably, but it will shave my fingerprint off but not actually cut my skin, so it's plenty sharp. Got to be sharp first. I'm going to do a deburring first, just to knock off that burr before we flip the other ones. If you're just using straight aluminum, straight leather, that's fine. Just use regular leather. I do this nice and slow. It's very important here. You always go one direction. Never cut towards it. We're doing the opposite here of when you're doing regular stone work. You're going both directions here. You always go downstream. Always have the knife pointed away from the direction of travel. You never go towards you. If I were to start doing this, that's a recipe for a disaster, because it's going to slice through and cut you and have a big problem. Always pull back, so the blade is always against. If you can kind of see it sideways, I basically lay the whole blade flat right on here. Let me swivel this. I lay the whole blade flat on there, just whatever feels level for the blade. I press down some and I drag, and you'll be able to feel the burr on it this way, which you normally cannot feel with your bare hand on this canvas. The canvas will actually bring that burr out. I mean, it won't bring it out, it'll make it where you can feel it. Depending what leather you're using and what canvas and what kind of metal and how thick it is, you may need to do this 20, 30 times, 40 times. There's not a problem with continuing to do it more. That's not an issue. Just keep going back and forth. A lot of this is just personal technique. Eventually you'll know what it feels like when the burr is mostly gone microscopically, and when you're ready to go to the next step. I can't tell you what your knife is going to do, how good your original sharpening job is, what piece you're using, so I really don't know how long it's going to take for you. I'd recommend probably try about always back and forth consistently, left, right, maybe 30 or 40 times. That'll be enough to knock off the burr, and you can see the metal's already starting to get more shiny here. You can probably see reflections in the light there. You can see it's getting more shiny because it's cleaning up that edge on there. It still has a little bit of an iridescent look, but it's certainly shining up. Yeah, I can feel the edge getting much sharper also. I can feel it kind of drag under the fingerprint, but not to the skin. A little bit of burr on this side. I can feel that because I'm used to doing these by the thousands, but just keep doing that. If you're only using the leather strap, do the same thing. Pull about 2 or 3 pounds back. It's going to be pretty good pressure. This isn't something light. You're putting a lot of force down on it. Always go down like this, never the knife towards you. Since I'm doing a Tonto blade, I've got to get both edges. You can see I have to do that edge and this edge. Nice and slow is easy, so you don't accidentally make error. Later on, you'll be going really, really fast, which is okay. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody starting, because a little slip here at this point is dangerous, because it will cut deep into you if you're not careful. So we'll just call this the deburring stage right here. Next video, we'll get into the actual leather stage and what we're doing there. If you listen quietly here, you can hear it dragging over that canvas. That's what we want. It's knocking off the higher edges of the metal, doing a pretty good job. So I'm just going to keep doing this 20, 30, 40, 50 times until the metal looks good. It's starting to really look shiny. You can probably see some, you know, a little bit of shine in the light there with it. So yeah, I'm about finished for this, you know, deburring stage. So next video we'll go on to the actual leather stropping.